Okay, it is 3:30. We're going to call the meeting to order of the June 23rd Portland Finance Committee. And Aaron, if you'd make note of the people in the room and online.
Yep.
Approval of the agenda. Is there a move to approve the agenda? Any changes or any other comments on that? Okay, anybody here for public participation? Hearing seeing none. The May 22nd, 2026 Finance Committee minutes are in the packet. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Minutes we made meeting.
Great, thank you. Angela, it's all yours.
Thank you. Okay, so you can definitively say May was a strong volume month, but we are having some continued financial pressure. Gross revenue performance remains solid and margin was primarily impacted by contractuals with some expense growth. So not to bury the lead, but we can just address that big fat bee elephant in the room. Our strategy is working in expanding clinics and expanding operations, but we have some operational alignment that needs to occur. And what that means is we have had some lag in Bartlett Family Medicine and Bartlett Glacier Peds billing and collections to the tune of Bartlett Glacier Peds. We're finishing January billing in June. So significant lag. The clinics have expanded in general surgery, ortho, and ophthalmology. And we had a team turnover in the clinics. So we've had significant headwinds there. That's why the clinic numbers look as challenging as they do. It is not a trend that would continue. It's something that will catch up, but it is, looking very poor in the month of May. For example, the clinics look like we have billed 1.7 million and that we have written off 1.4. Well, that's not an accurate picture of what we do in the clinics. We still have bills to be billed out of that area. And we were seeing payments being processed as new staff was being brought on board and seeing adjustments that were hitting that. So those are the numbers straight out of the system, but it's not the whole story and it won't be the continual story. And then we had a review of the overall contractual calculation. We knew that all year long we were flattening out that contractual calculation. We were expecting the contractuals and the collections to be consistent with prior year. We saw that collections were dropping off beginning first quarter of this year. So that would be Q3 of the fiscal year. And we were working with the RCM teams to focus in on those collections and drive that improvement. We expected to see more traction than what we have. It's not that they aren't working hard. They are all very diligent and working extremely hard. It's that they simply haven't had enough time to collect. And there have been a lot of other pressures going on, such as Wellflower Corp changing their EHR and upgrading to a new matrix care that is a whole nother system, as well as other headwinds we talked about. So we do expect that recovery, and we're taking a lot of steps to achieve on that. But this is a more conservative picture to address the current reserve shortfall and make sure that we are not in an even worse position in June. Now, the good news is we do have, after June, a couple of months of collections, subsequent collections under audit that do apply to our fiscal year 26 elections, and those are part of the audit review. So if we do make good traction, then we may be able to recoup that. But we didn't want to bet on that and get into a position where we were making material negative adjustments during audit. It had all just continue a little bit more of a conservative. Any questions on that part of the contractuals before I talk about it?
Jeannie?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, no questions. Just, it's not a cheerful report,
wanna-
but
I want
I
to
understand.
tick through a few things here. Page 16, which is Bartlett Family Medicine, has 2.5 in gross with no contractual adjustment. And so what we're hearing is that $2.5 million is really what's been billed through January or for services through January.
No, Bartlett Glacier Pete's is the one that had been billed through January.
Oh.
Bartlett Family Medicine has been billed, more recently. I think they're about mid-May.
It's deciding on that still.
Yes.
So no contractual?
Contractuals are typically booked at the holistic view. When we do these individual statements, we typically calculate them simply because of the brush.
So line 8 is that a contractual?
No,
Line is gross, contractuals are booked at the entity level.
yes, yes.
I see.
Now we need to calculate them and add them onto the sheet.
So this doesn't really roll up the way you would typically think of consolidated thing rolling up.
It just gives you gross, it's always been a problem when we posted contractuals going back decades. It always been posted at the entity level. We do have some insight in some of the departmental clinics where we can pull reports and look at cash flows and stuff like that.
Yeah. Sharon, would you go back to page 9? I think it's 9. It's the consolidated.
Yeah.
Page 7, I think it's what that says. It looks like there's 2 numbers printed in there. Let's keep going up a couple more pages there. Yeah, that one right there. Make it wider because it's 199 is a little pokey. Okay, so line 13, other deductions. Let's talk about what's on line 13.
So, in the month of May, we had, some significant write-offs that referred to prior year. And that $1,022,000 is no prior authorization write-offs. So no prior authorization means we did not get the proper insurance authorization before doing the procedure or rendering the service. That is under our contracts, a no-fault breach. We will never get paid for that. There is no appeal that fixes it. So that was $1 million. There was $682,000 that related to one patient. It was an infusion patient. So it was a significant amount of money. And when I looked at historically calculating out the total amount of write-offs for no prior authorization for fiscal year 25. So that means we should have collected about everything that we would collect on fiscal year 25. That on the hospital side only, inpatient and outpatient, we had about $1.6 million in write-offs for no prior authorization. Plus the infusion patient that hit at the end of 25. Our fiscal year 25, so you're talking about 2.2 million. And that's not including clinic and home health and hospice and welfare. So that has become one of our key focuses as we go through our revenue cycle management improvement process, is to centralize prior authorization and have a better oversight on that so that we don't keep repeating that cycle.
Okay, so how is it possible that this $600,000 infusion patient we didn't know that we had a prior authorization problem when we closed 6/30/25. I mean, why wasn't this fully allowed for last year? Why are we just finding out about it now? And the reason I'm asking is how do we know there's not more out there that we don't know about now?
I'm sure there is more out there that we don't know about yet, that is not fully reserved for. And the way we don't know is because you have to go through the appeals process. And then going through the appeals process with the insurance company, they'll eventually kick it back after you satisfy. They'll say, okay, you didn't supply a medical record, and you go and you supply the medical record. And then in 30 days, they come back and say, well, you didn't sign this note. And then you go back and you sign that note and submit it. And you go through the steps until you get to the back and they say, oh, well, we don't have to pay you anything because you didn't have prior auth. So sometimes you hit it on the first denial, sometimes you hit it on the third. It's a process. It's not, it is a very manual, not streamlined process.
This one happened to go back to 24, right?
Yes.
So it's just, what I'm trying to understand is, and I get the back and forth that you have as you go through the discovery and trying to get an insurance company to pay something. That seems like an inordinately long amount of time for that process to uncover, especially for something that large.
Yes. And the way we fix that is by cutting it off on the front end.
I don't want to talk about the fix. I want to better understand. I want to understand why we didn't have, I'm just really concerned that the number that we've got in here for AR is materially high still. Right? I mean, it seems it's a reasonable question, isn't it? If we've got stuff that's that old that we're just now finding out that is,
Yeah.
we're 2 years on and we're just now finding out that it's bad, right?
So the one fix we could do, like, I know that you want to look at all the old they are, but it's more of a moving forward fix, because when these come across, they're like a CO 150 adjustment. When we book those and they don't actually get adjusted off the account to get into, put into work.
I get it, but if you think about it, and that's why I was asking you about the reserve thing last night, is that if you've got, by the time you hit 150 days, you're 100% reserved or 180, right? So this would be in that category, right? So why wasn't it 100% reserved? And that begs my question is, why is that hitting P&L now? If we had already reserved it, it should be charged against the allowance, not against the.
It goes back to, we were under allowed going into the month. So if we were appropriately allowed, it's because when we flattened out that contractual rate, we became under allowed. So there was nothing to hit. We had to fix the overall allowance. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't. I mean, I understand.
So it's like we had to make an adjustment to bring the allowance up. There was nothing to offset it to, so we had to go straight to the income statement. We can do a walkthrough that with the specifics with you, if that just bring clarity to the situation.
It'd be good to look at the age from an aging perspective. And so if we were to look at an allowance today, and let's just start with like just over 120, how much is allowed for over 120 days?
Well, it's a complicated factor, because what we do is we do have a step-up rate, so we increase it. But we run a zero balance report so that's every account that's zeroed out in that 12-month period, which would include all these adjustments. So they're built into that average rate. And so we start with the average and then we do some escalation and then we switch back to the average. Andrew can correct me, he works the model, but that's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
And so when we test back to the average, if we're hitting the average and we're allowing above the average technically. The average includes all these adjustments.
And so it sounds like part of what you're fighting too on this is that because of the lag, the in-house lag that we've got right now, you don't really have good clarity on your aging.
Well, we have some aging that could be collecting and things that we're escalating them, so it's pushing the allowance up. So when she said we have, post-audit collections, we get post-audit, we collect a bunch of these up, they all clean off those buckets, this adjustment comes down. That's what Angela was getting to. So we can clean up our old AR by middle of August. This could be somewhat corrected. It won't be all corrected. Yeah. It depends on how we do on our collections.
Mr. Chair, I have a question going back to the free auths. where does the responsibility for pre-op lie? Does it lie with the providers, or does it lie with the hospital, or a combination of both? I mean, and when you're talking about trying to fix the issue of no pre-op, how do we, what's the process?
It's currently decentralized and in some clinics, some units in the hospital. And what we're talking about is pulling people into one central location, having cross training, running a list, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, 2 days out, 1 day out, and saying, okay, what procedures do we have when we have loss on everything that needs involved? And it's making sure that there's very firm oversight and controls in place to do that. It's also currently we allow surgeries to be scheduled without prior auth, and it's a functional change to that process as well.
And let's just say we're talking about an orthopedist. They're responsible for the pre-auth for their procedure. That's what I mean.
The office shows up with it. And
Yeah.
typically what we should do, it should not be scheduled until that pre-op's in place and it's been validated. Right now, for some reason, with this working on that, surgeries are getting scheduled without that pre-op in place because physicians, I don't want to say could be bullies, but they could be rather persistent. And so
That's actually where I was getting to is where do we have the control?
and surgeries, we have the
It's
control.
scheduling.
In
Okay.
imaging, we have the control registration.
Okay.
Infusion therapy, because there's so many concurrent visits, that's sometimes where we have the gap, because, you have to have, they'll give you a span date. And some of this gets corrected with legislation that was passed, but isn't become effective until January 1st, 27. So if someone has a chronic condition, they're not gonna make you go back and get it up for every 30 days. So we're working in an old system. But we still have to be centralized in the process, have different processes for the departments. So we're requiring everyone to have an off, so it's do not pass go without an authorization.
So on the in, so I guess the in-house billing and kind of just maybe help me understand, if you think about inpatient, the various outpatients, the clinic, the new services, where are we in terms of the lag? I mean, you talked about, for example, the one that was back to January, typical inpatient bill. What's the lag on that? Are those pretty old too? Or, I mean,
Inpatient billing is
pretty current?
tracking pretty currently.
What's pretty currently mean?
I mean, they're tracking within
5 days?
days.
They are? Okay. So that's good. And in the outpatient, you think about outpatient surgery, which is a big chunk of the revenue that flows in there.
That's more of a lag, yes.
Is it?
Yeah, sometimes like we have issues with providers not putting notes in, not signing documents that we have to fight. And then some of those go up to 60 days for the provider signing them.
And is that a fairly high percentage of the total billings in, or is it
Depends on the provider.
only on an aggregate basis?
Basis, we'd have to pull some
It
numbers.
sounds like it's long enough that
It's a big enough problem. It's not at the top level. It gets to the point where I have to walk out, talk to the surgeon and make them sign it. And so, I mean, there's no teeth in our bylaws to require anyone to sign their note in a period of time.
is it kind of across the board in terms of the services, or is there an area, is it, what is the, is it the orthopedics? Is it a little bit of everything?
Kept smiling at me because she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Excellent names.
I don't want names, but I want to get an idea of the breadth, because that'll help us understand how big the problem is. Right? I mean, that's what I'm after here.
It's predominantly general surgery. It does trickle over into some of the other specialties though. Our biggest lag is what she talked about is the clinic side. We had a turnover in the billing team basically. And so we're way behind with the clinic bill. Like, when you go back to orthopedics, orthopedic clinic, there's a lot of surgeries we haven't billed in. The doctor from the professional side.
Is that a fact?
And it's a fact.
And that's just because of a manpower issue.
It's a manpower issue. We have the team staffed up now, we're good, finishing up training, stuff starting to speed up. But we have added, I don't want to say overwhelming amount of clinicians, but we have grown substantially.
So are we doing charge capture on those, Angela? Is charge capture happening? We're just not dropping bills, so, or is revenue not in here until we get the bill drop?
There, it's been,
Go ahead.
we've had this discussion. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah.
So for like the family practice clinics, it gets dropped when they close the chart. And so, you know, most of the providers are great at this. We do have a few that like to not sign charts and they grow the number and we'll have conversation and they catch back. So there is some lag there. Some of the anesthesia is way behind because it's a manual process at this point with the new system. They're trying to work through the kinks of that.
So on that one, anesthesia charge capture has happened and we're waiting to drop a bill.
No, that's what I'm saying. It hasn't, not some of those.
I see.
So there were like the gross revenue number you're
So
saying.
they're technically not even in-house. I mean, you think of a track, like classic in-house bills when you've done charge capture on, you just haven't dropped a bill yet, right? So what you're not even to the in-house stage.
Yeah, it hasn't even hit our income statement at this point.
So then what you could have is, well, of course, there's no revenue on the books yet for it either, right?
You're gonna see an increase in revenue and contractuals to offset, you know, the collectible on those. We do estimates on PEDS at this point.
We are doing a very conservative 80,000 a month in revenue on PEDS. Simply because that is the Alaska average for PEDS. We don't have numbers. Andrew is working with the clinical team to get visit counts so that we can figure out an average billable charge per visit, and then we can do a more accurate estimate and catch it up.
That's the only one we've put in an accrual and everything else is gonna be a lag. It's gonna be a catch up.
Yeah.
And you'll see it now, like when they go through audit, and they do, you know, post-close retro revenue, you'll see that adjustment.
Are you shooting for a prelim date for audit or, you know, I think one of y'all mentioned mid-August is a date for getting these caught up.
They moved it out to the first and second week of September. And then, they said they will not move our date out. We should still be able to publish some financials by the end of October.
So the real question though is when you see what is now a $2.1 million loss, I mean, it begs the question whether our current strategy is the correct one or whether we need to make changes to that. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And we've addressed some of it, like our strategy, part of the strategy with the clinics, we're in the first steps of that. Like it had always been our intent to change the status of them. We're not like to provider-based clinics to RSGs. That opens up additional reimbursement. I think Angela touched base on her memo.
Yeah.
Family practice is, you know, roughly $1 million between 340B and increased reimbursement for that status change. That's it. Historical volumes, not, I don't think that accounts for additional Boston, but
Growth.
yeah, the growth in providers. So that's the starting point for that number. We have a good analysis on that. It also doesn't take into consideration, like, it's always been part of the plan to bring all the labs they do in-house. And so we haven't done that, waiting for labs to continue. That's been put on the fast track. We'll be pulling all their labs in-house here shortly. There's also a list of other expenses we're gonna be going through. I actually had a good conversation with Deb prior to this. I'm gonna suggest that we have a special board meeting in the middle of July to go through some of the more sensitive stuff. Going back to your question, is our strategy right? I would say our strategy will come into line as we add some of these revenue sources and if rural administration gets continued. If rural administration does not get continued, it will be paramount that we move to critical access as soon as possible.
We have to. I just don't see a way around it.
Yeah, I mean, with some of these things, and there's also some additional revenue opportunities I'd like to talk through the board. We've touched base on them, pharmacy, retail pharmacy, 340B opportunities that we're gonna look at. We're gonna try to push forward as fast as possible. In the short term, as we try to get some of this stuff, we're also looking at all our expenses. We're gonna do some special FTE committees. We're gonna go through all our FTEs again, make sure we haven't had growth. We're gonna go through overtime utilization. From a cash management standpoint, we probably have to consider holding on capital. I know there's a request in this packet. As
Yeah,
I look at our cash balance, like capital for the next 3 months, is probably gonna be put on pause unless it's critical to operations and emergent. We're also looking at our AP days. We talked about that. We need to look at all the payment rules for each vendor, make sure we're like, and that payment so we can conserve cash during the short term. But as we get that, and then Stroudwater will come talk to this, I mean, our clinic strategy is on phase one. We're just getting into the growth stage of this. And so I know that's kind of a convoluted answer to your question.
no, it's on point. I mean, you know, it's a lot of pieces to it, right?
Yes. The complexity of what we're dealing with is hard to talk through, in addition to, you know, the day-to-day challenges.
Rural demo is how much in a year?
It's 4.2, but it does vary. So as I look back, and this is my analysis of it. When they do the rebase in year one, it's always the best year. And then it goes up, and it kind of trickles down. Last year is always the worst.
Yeah.
And so it varied between 6.5 and 4.2. I know it was adjusted down last year. It might be down to 3 something towards the end. As we look at rural demo over the last year, there are some factors that are working to our benefit. We saw a decrease in our inpatient utilization. We had 13% less admissions overall. When you look at year-to-date compared to the prior year, we have more Medicare. So that means there's more in the bucket for Medicare. So we should see demonstration increase as well. We've seen our costs increase as well. And so when we say that, I would conservatively estimate somewhere between 5 and 6, probably safely. Me and Andrew talked about this. We pulled together some metrics. We're going to work with cost forecasters and give a
5 to 6 for rural demo?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
that's based on the increase in cost.
For 26.
Decrease,
Rough.
reps. This is
Yeah,
taking
okay.
a number and taking my.
That's what I was looking for. And so where I was going with that is if Sharon, scroll down to the bottom there of that page. So when we're sitting at $2.1 million loss, which is the first column in the group on the right, and you compare that to $5.5 million of what we had in the budget, and we're set, let's just round number it and say $5 million is rural demo, right?
That's a rough estimate. Let's make sure that's.
I get you. I get you, but I mean, I'm just trying to get us to the start. It's the biggest difference, right? So that still leaves a delta of about 2.5 to 3.5 roughly $1 million from what you had in the budget, right?
Yeah, potentially. And then we also have some allowance, like as we finish up the allowance, there could, I'm not gonna say there won't be additional adjustments, but as this runs out, we'll know the true scope of it.
So the, for hospice and home care, as just one area of where we've got this huge variance between budget and actual. $1.3 million total on the two that we've got lost year to date versus I think $300,000 or $400,000 what we had in the budget. What's up, you know, when we look at things like that, why is that such a huge? And I'm looking at what's left over of the, you know, the decrement between the two.
Well, it's two convenient courses. We're having increased costs across the board. You know, supplies are up, staff costs are up, while you're seeing reduced reimbursement from the feds. I mean, you have the two numbers moving in opposite directions. There is a solution to part of that we're going to discuss with the board, hopefully at the special meeting. That potentially gets it back to a neutral number. There's going to be some changes involved in that too. But that's should be an executive session discussion.
Yeah. So again, I'm looking at the gaps. Where are the other gaps between what we had? And I know the budget's a year and 2 or 3 months old compared to where we are now. In rural demo, we've got hospice and home care lag. What are the other lags? We've got some payroll growth that really we're not seeing recovery through revenue. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. We're going to go through FTEs. That's going to be a big piece of it. We've seen overtime kind of get out of hand a little bit, so we're going to focus intensely on overtime. Those are the big ones. We're going to start looking at our contracts again. Make sure we're not out of alignment. And I mean, the clinic revenue, just getting that caught up. I mean, that's a big gap.
Yeah, right.
And then getting all these in the right status.
And just to the point though, and why that is so much important is that you're paying the payroll. The payroll's in the number. You're paying them, you know, the supplies expense, right?
Yeah.
You're just, we don't have any revenue on the books for it.
We'll get there. And like some of the stuff is designation. We talked about provider based. I'm gonna give you an example that's just. So for ophthalmology, today we lose money on it because the drugs are so expensive. We make that a provider based clinic and we get 340B pricing. I could drop the drug price by 60%, which is $400,000 to $600,000 a year less in drug costs with no change in revenue.
No, I hear you on that, James, for sure.
So we just, you know, we have, I think our overall strategy is still sound. It's just trying to get there as fast as possible. And like, we had a good discussion this morning as a team. We're in expedite this as fast as possible.
Thank you for that. Jeannie, do you have anything, or Brent, do you guys have anything more that you want to ask on this? I think we've rated them enough. Jeannie, you're on mute. I don't know if you tried to say something or.
No, I was just gonna say nothing.
Oh,
Don't have
okay.
anything to add to press.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's see, where were we, Angela?
So we were at expense.
Okay.
So expenses are trending higher. That is consistent with the addition of Bartlett Family Medicine and Bartlett Glacier Peds and expansion in multi-general surgery and orthopedics. And that was also the driver for the increase in benefits, which is notable. And also was going to be pretty close. Oh, we had the reclass for the right to use lease that resulted in a credit on one of the lines. And that was about 435,000 in your program. So that was a reclass that ended up in a credit on the P&L. And then we ended up at the year-to-date 2.2 net.
I didn't get a chance to look at your, is that 438 all P, is any of that reclass between rent expense and interest, or is it all?
So, roughly over 100,000, less than 200,000 was reclassed to interest expense. The other side of that, yeah, the 87 would be the amortization expense. When we reconciled that account, it appeared that a lot of the amortization had already been accrued, and so the accumulated amortization account is reconciled to the amortization schedules, but we recorded less amortization expense than you would expect when trailing amortization.
So the net P&L impact was total of that.
It just some quick math.
Before I run spot.
Numbers in front of me, but it was roughly 300,000
Okay, that's
to the credit.
pure credit, yeah, right. Okay, Angela?
And any questions on expenses? Now we'll move on to balance sheet. So balance sheet cash has decreased slightly to 13.2 million. That is down from 15.4. There was an increase in AR of 613,000, which we are in our seasonally high months, and we are producing more revenue. It's not unexpected, especially given where we're at with collection. Days in AR bumped up slightly to 94.9. We do expect to see that start continuing to trend down as we work through our revenue cycle improvement process.
If you could just pause there on the AR piece. Do we need to bring in, is there any value in bringing in some help on on billing at this point, or is it something you guys just have to struggle through and kind of just work your way through it?
I believe we need to fix the process in order to alleviate the downstream impact. So our patient financial services group is trying to catch stuff that should be collected on the front end or should be correct on the front end. It's patient demographics, it's prior auth, it's co-pays and deductibles. And they're trying to catch all of that. That's going to slow them down. It's going to result in less collections. So if we fix the process, we fix the problem.
But it's just from a catch-up standpoint, you know, helping with, you know,
Yes.
We do have strong water coming in for the strategic financial operational assessment. Revenue cycle is on one of their top tens. They'll be talking about it extensively. It's something we can chat with them. They'll provide some guidance. So one of the things we have to do is action planning with them. And so the board will be presenting that next week.
thank you.
When is that happening? Is that at our board meeting next week?
Yeah, that's why we moved it to the 30th.
Okay,
So there'll be a 60 to 75-minute executive session right after consent. We'll go over the whole assessment. You guys will be provided copies in the folder too.
Yeah. I'm just remembering, I forgot that. I apologize for bringing it up right here. So if you need to get back to me later on that, but the other receivables, what was that increase? It's gone up, it's doubled. It's from 1.5 to 3.3 over the last 3 or 4 months.
But the city with the city houses.
It should be in there, the due from CPA.
Why the shoot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's due.
So I'm gonna
from
ask you
CDJ.
guys about that, spaced it out, so. Okay. And so is it your hope to have the Gatsby number booked for June, when we see the June draft?
Yes. It is.
Let me know if I can help. You know,
I will let you know.
happy to help. Okay. Anything else, Angela, on that?
Yes.
So I know that this is challenging time. So you get paid the big bucks, Joe. I know it's challenging. You guys will work through it. We have complete confidence. It's certainly, it's a rough thing you're going through and getting these, especially rev cycle. Rev cycle can be one of those things that's just barren, you know, and the wheels come off the bus. You know, it's hard to get them back on.
What it takes, 60 days to collect on an account, and you're trying to fix that, and you're still dealing with all the old products like what she talked.
Feel your pain on that, for sure. I mean, I know it's difficult. I mean, there's some bright spots in there too, you know, it's a matter of getting them to the bottom. So, I mean, it was great to see the inpatient wildfire court days continue to trend up, right?
We'll be submitting our exceptional relief request to the state. Okay, tomorrow? Tomorrow.
Good luck with that. Is there anything on the dashboard that for hospice and home health that we need to be specifically, I mean, I looked at that, nothing that jumped out at me, but
I think the good news is on the more recent trends, we are seeing the acute care days extend, which is exactly what we want. That means people staying on service longer, which is better for them, and it's also better for us since it is a flattening rate on hospice. It helps us recoup those early expenses in the first week. So it's, I believe we're up to 9.14 days on the percent for the board. It's definitely turning in the right direction, bringing the billing in-house. The team is working together with the director, Kim and I, and we're having calls every other week, and we're making significant progress on that as well.
Deb, I wonder if we should pull the financials out of consent agenda for this month and have a little bit more deep dive in the finance committee.
I think so. If we had more board members in attendance today, I might not have agreed with that, but I agree that we need to have a.
It's now to get it on the record too, I think.
Exactly.
So you guys could be prepared for kind of an abbreviated but deep kind of review on the P and L and patient financial services front. I think it'd be good to talk it through hospice and home care with the board, just have some conversation around that.
Will, we be able to get the minutes?
Yeah,
Packet?
yeah, we'll have that.
Okay.
I'll finish.
We've got actually more time. than we-
I know.
It's like 3 extra days, I think, it's like normally we're doing this on a Friday, right? Yeah. So, all right. Thank you for that, Angela. I appreciate the transparency around all the issues. And I know you're trying to work them through. It is, I want to follow up with you guys on the AR and the aging and also this in-house issue that we've talked about, some of the delay there and just understanding better the contractual versus, recording a balance sheet versus P and L, so I can understand, because it's not entirely making sense to me right now, but I'm sure it does to y'all, and I just need to understand it. I want to understand it a little bit better. I still want to waste the time here to do it. Okay, well, since we're not spending more money with that, Kim?
Really bad time. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, this is a system, drill set. And it's when we make plans to open up the third door. I apologize, I'm asking the line director. We knew we were gonna have to expand some of our equipment to be able to support more ortho surgeries. So with this system, right now, they have a drill system that can accommodate 2 ortho surgeries going at the same time, but if a piece of that gets dropped, we'll have to get it flashed, processed. And we wouldn't be able to run a third ortho case without this drill system. So it's kind of any money to make money. I am, and I don't know how we do this. I have asked our director if there is a different way we can go about it, or maybe have to order it in pieces instead. To still be able to accommodate the 3 ortho cases, but maybe not all the bells and whistles that come with it. Her feeling is that without this, we won't be able to run the 3 ortho cases at the same time. Now, whether we delay that and put different cases in there or not, until we can be at a better place financially to be able to make this purchase, is a question that we'll have to answer.
I'll pay it for 6 months.
We wanted to extend the
I was just thinking that.
And besides, you push that pretty quick.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, so Joe, what's your thought about this?
Due to the cash situation, I would push us back a few months, and we'll just have to work on scheduling 2 orthos at a time. If they're like, there's that other surgeons, they're just gonna have to make do with what we have. We made it this far.
Is, I kind of I say it in jest, but I mean, it's not necessarily a bad idea to go back to the vendor on this and say, we want to do this. We'd love to be able to do business with you, but we're in a cash flow crunch right now, and can we have 6 months to pay you on this without interest? All they can do is tell you no.
We can ask that question and we can revisit it next month. That gives us time
I
to
think that,
recess.
this was put in there, of course, probably the other information we've known, but I think since we're still trying to schedule anesthesia coverage for 3rd rooms, I think we have time to be able to look at this. And
We hit in September, 1st of October, like this would be more critical than my mind at that point, which we still have time to make decisions before then.
So maybe if we could do this, Sharon, for purposes of the minutes, just say that, management decided to just sit on this and we'll bring it back to us at the appropriate time.
Mr. Chair, can I ask?
So, Kim,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
can I ask,
sure.
what's the lead time on this?
I will have to get that to you. I don't think that means very much because it's not anything that they have to manufacture. I think it becomes like it's off. But I think that there might be different vendors that, depending on what our contractuals are.
Okay, in-house shredding, Angela?
So while we're asking,
We're telling you no.
Yes, exactly.
While we're doing all those.
So this was an opportunity to bring shredding in-house and eliminate the external vendor. While we love our external vendor and support our community, and they have done a great job, they've had staffing challenges and that have created delays where we've had several pallets of shredding that is locked downstairs pending destruction. So in order to reduce liability as well as reduce cost in the long term, we thought it would be great to bring this in-house. Our current staff already collects shredding from our outside clinics and brings it back here for consolidation. So that would not change. The only thing that would change is we would put a big shred machine in the basement of this building where the old hydrophilic compressor chamber used to be. And that is in a room with doors. It would have HEPA filtration on it, and then it would take a staff member somewhere between 2, maybe 3 hours a week to process the shred. This would include labeled bags, so if anyone's putting non-compliant things in there, we could address it so that we don't add time. The cost is $63,640. With the bringing it in-house, we estimate it would cost us $14,147 a year. And we currently paid in the last 12 months, $40,912, not including the pallet sitting downstairs and our shred projects like scanning and shredding paper, so Northwest Family Medicine. So not including projects, we would expect payback in 2.3 years with an annual net savings of about 28. So this is certainly something that can wait.
So it's not in the packet. Walk through those numbers again.
The numbers are.
This should,
Not.
oh, my apologies. Yes, there was an A3 and a full ROI analysis done.
Three is.
But the ROI is not, I think, my apologies. No, the total initial investment is $63,680. The annual operating cost to bring it in-house with materials and labor is $14,147. And our outsourced cost for what we spent in shredding the last 12 years was $40,912. We're talking about 64, and then we would spend 14 in addition to the equipment in annual recurring expense, and that offsets 41,000 in annual recurring expense for a savings of 28,000.
What do you want to do about it? It's small enough that, you know, we can probably do it if you want to do it. If you want to wait, we can wait. I'd say it's kind of your call, Jeff.
You guys feel comfortable just granting me the authority to look at financials and make the decision?
Yeah.
And that way it's approved, and if it starts turning, we can make the decision quicker and not have to wait for a meeting.
Yeah, so why don't we, at the bottom of that, maybe Brenda, if you could do the motion at the bottom of page 27 or whatever that number is. But instead of that motion, why don't we say to approve giving the CEO the authority to, discretion.
All right. I move the Bartlett Regional Hospital Finance and Audit Committee to grant Joe, the CEO, discretionary power authority to decide if the hospital can purchase the shredders or the shredders that have been described here for the destruction of records.
How about to determine the timing of the purchase? We want to purchase it regardless. But
Yeah, okay, so I move part of the Regional Hospital Finance and Audit Committee to grant discretionary power to the CEO on timing of purchasing the shredder, destruction of sensitive material.
Up to 65,000. So
Yeah, up to $65,000.
Jeannie, is that a second from you?
That's a second for me.
Okay, great. So that's done. Okay, Angela, supplemental appropriation.
Yes, so due to the addition of Bartlett Family Medicine and Bartlett Electric Needs and the expansion in the specialty clinic, our budget was exceeded from an expense perspective. Now, while this was offset with revenue, that is not part of the CBJ process. They only look at the increase in expense. So after taking the year-to-date financials through May, annualizing for 12 months, and putting a bit of a buffer on there, the supplemental appropriation request is 12 million. And that has gone through the first assembly presentation as pending finance committee and board approval. And then we'll go to the second assembly presentation for approval.
You want to do this one too, Brent?
Sure. I moved Bartlett, this is the 120. Yeah. Whatever that number is down there. I moved Bartlett Regional Hospital Finance Night Committee to approve the appropriation of 12 million, therefore forward it to the full board of directors for further review and consideration and approval.
Jeannie,
Second,
thank you. Okay, that's that. Jeannie or Brent, any committee comments, questions? Sure.
Sorry, backtracking, back to the striker drill stuff. So when we've got two fetus working, I'm assuming one's from Juno Bone and Joint, the other one's our blue bag, correct? So are we responsible for providing all of the equipment for the Juno Bone and Joint surgeons?
For all of this.
Well, I get the ones that
Well, for
work
the tray,
that are
yeah.
further, the
Yeah.
ones that are.
And we have set of trays that, are common, yeah, and then if it's, a specialty thing or something, then that gets brought in.
So do we make money off leasing that equipment to Juno Bone and Joint surgeons when they come in? Like, how does that?
It's part of the facility charge, the hospital charges. Yeah,
That's what I was curious of, and
that's typical. The hospital always provides the equipment for surgeons.
Jeannie, do you have anything?
sorry, on the CBJ supplemental, I assume that Joe or somebody will be at the assembly meeting when this is discussed. Is that correct?
I was me and Deb were both at the first meeting when it was first introduced.
Okay, okay. And were there questions or did people understand that this isn't, this is just about Bartlett? Okay. Great. I just don't want there to be misunderstandings among assembly members that this is in some way Bartlett coming and asking the city for money.
This goes back to remember when Angie came in. She had
Yeah, I remember perfectly. I understand it. But she was just, I'm not sure she got it. I mean, she kept talking about what a big percentage of our budget it was. So I'm glad there was no big discussion about it with the assembly.
But you will be,
I
will y'all be at the second one? I mean,
I can't be,
I think it'd be a good idea.
I think it's probably a good idea, just in case somebody asks
Good point.
like questions that imply that we are asking the city for money, that the city is not giving Bartlett any money. They're just giving Bartlett the authority to spend the money that is coming in. And it's a distinction that I think people can miss, and there could easily be people thinking that Bartlett is asking the city for $12 million.
Yep, that's a very good point. Okay, when is that meeting, by the way? You know? If I'm here, I'll go with you.
Was it the first week in July? Yeah.
I thought it was the first Monday.
The 6th?
Yeah.
It's in person. So before we adjourn, can we look at our next, I know that it sounds like you guys have some calls in there as far as board meetings, but we want to pencil in right now we're set for the 17th of July for our next meeting. We pushed back and we could push back to the 24th if that worked for everybody, to give a little bit more time for Angela to close June, Angela and Andrew close June.
Yeah, with the work done through year end, I think they appreciate that.
Jeannie or Brent, is that?
I'm going out of town on July 23rd. So you're talking about having the meeting on the 24th?
Well, I mean, we could do it on the 20th.
It would be, yeah, I can't promise that I'll be there. I'm going to a family reunion and I'm just not sure if on Friday the 24th, I'll be able to step away from whatever family
Sure.
activities are happening. I could do it. I leave on the 23rd. So if we wanted to do the 22nd, that would work for me.
I will still be traveling on the 22nd, but I can do it remotely on the 22nd. That works for me. So how about noon on the 22nd?
That works fine for me.
I mean, you're working until 2:30.
So do you want to do the afternoon again?
Yeah.
Okay, 3 o'clock on the 22nd. Okay, so we'll do that. Doesn't give you a ton of extra time, Angela, but so that'll be the 22nd. And you'll send out an update, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
You said 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock?
Yeah.
3:30.
Okay. Does that mess you up for the special meeting you're thinking about though? Yeah, or is that?
We're gonna look at the date.
We're gonna look at the dates. We want to do it sometime before the next board meeting.
Okay.
So. And are we gonna have a housing update? It's on the agenda.
Did I miss one? Oh, gosh, I did.
The update is we can afford housing.
Okay.
I don't know if everyone saw that JCF donated 16 units to legislation. It'd be nice to get that donated to us.
There's a lot of history behind that. Yeah, that is actually, that building is actually been owned by a private corporation that, a bunch of do-gooders in Juneau put together back in the 1970s and has been, operating for some time. And, so it is, just for a lot of reasons, it's a little bit like buying the assembly building and fixing it up and giving that to the, that's the same kind of thing that we're talking about. There are some improvements made to it, so.
What do they do in the off season? Legislature is now. Do you know anyone there?
Yeah,
You see where I'm going with this?
yeah, I'm involved in it. So,
So I can talk to you.
yeah, they, it's typically rented out to the tourism.
Oh, okay.
So they're, they're pretty
Yeah,
well,
for it.
they keep some of them for, but it's all special session in summer and then also winter housing. But
Gotcha.
so it's not like they bought housing and gave it to the legislature. That there is not that kind of outlay involved. They basically just
I
transfer.
think we're gonna give a lot of details.
So with that, we're adjourned.
Bye, everyone.